Forward!
Hard work. Hard work. Hard work. Hard work. Hard work. Work. There you go.
Forward!
Hard work. Hard work. Hard work. Hard work. Hard work. Work. There you go.
Forward!
Hard work. Hard work. Hard work.
Fall in.
Hey, good morning, good morning, good morning. You know what it is. It's another morning. It's me, your boy, Trey the Commish. You got the People's Coach, Cornelius Cole. We in here, First Information Morning Sports Talk. Get in, fall in with your favorite bets on the net as we get into talk about what's been popping in sports. Running behind a little bit, just have to take care of little technical difficulties, but we here and we're going to be hitting it up. So, of course, y'all know us, if you read the caption, we're going to have some of the coaches from the military basketball realm community as they go over their coaches, their rendition of the coaches poll, the latest edition of the National Military Basketball Tournaments committee's poll drop. So we got a couple of conversations, but before we get to tap in with them gentlemen, there's a lot to be said. NCAA basketball, NBA basketball, the NFL just got finished with their combine, and I think that's where we'll start in with some pigskin, as it's almost becoming a year-round situation. As you know, of course, the season ended in early February, unfortunately, in a certain way that wasn't conducive to everybody, but it ended, you know what I'm saying, with the Kansas City Chiefs victorious in the Super Bowl in overtime. But like I say, he had the combine. Currently, this as of I think right now up until the 11th is when as today by today franchise tags have to be issued. They have until July to sign, and then after that this month starts the off season officially, as the negotiations will go on next week. Next week the free agency market opens up, and then we start to see where everything is lying. But like I said, when we last spoke, Coach, we basically had only got to see the tight ends and the defensive linemen, defensive ends, and the linebackers go through their combine. Were you impressed? I know you are a tactician, and were you not impressed by the weekend's variations of the combines with the wide receiver, with the skills position? Anything stood out to you?
Well, 4-2-1. Dude ran a 4-2-1. I think his name
Now,
was Worthy. Worthy. I was I was surprised at some of the speed from or the lack of speed from the wide receiving core.
mm,
Um, Besides the 4-2-1, they was running 4-5s and um, 4-6s and stuff like that at wide receiver. I know everybody not gonna have blazing speed, but I think the top. I think I saw like besides the 4-2-1, you saw a few 4-3s or something in there. But for the most part, I mean, I guess what I was looking at was um, like Rice from USC. He was kind of slow. Um, Outside of him and Worthy doing his thing, a couple of other receivers that I thought had speed, they didn't show up. I was like, what happened to the speed in the wide receiver group? Running backs. Is there any surprise that the
let
running
me ask
backs
let me ask
in
you
that
this, right?
range? Mhm.
What to you? What is speed? Let's put get a perspective of that, so that we know what the people. What is speed? So, like we said, Xavier Worthy out of Texas ran a 4.2, which is now the combine's record, a tenth of a second more than faster than that in which Ross ran a couple of years ago. So, what is speed to you in this 4.43, 4.4? Um,
Well, we always thought four like a 4-4 flat is considered speed, right?
okay.
And you less than that. So seeing all the 4-5s and the Seeing all those on the other side of the fofo, um, kind of different as far as wide receivers. I think you know what I mean. Like
So
my
the
question would be, how fast are wide receivers really supposed to be? Because with the wide variation, and then with so few being below the 4.4 mark, like what is speed to the league? Because and like we talked before with the pad zone, the effort and stuff makes a difference, I guess. But
oh yeah, that's
if you
right.
just
Yeah,
look
we
at that
talk about
speed,
yeah.
if you just look at that speed, you come out there and run a 4.3. What I liked about Worthy was I actually saw some of I saw some of them run the wide receivers. Saturday I saw some of them run. Um, and I think or was it Friday? It was either Friday or Saturday. I watched some of them run. But anyway, just the young man came out and second time he ran it. He didn't have to run it twice. Everybody was already telling him to take your cleats off. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't even need those anymore.
Yeah. When
Like
he ran the 4.2, right? The 4.25.
yeah, he ran a 4.25 the first time, and then the second time that's when he broke the record or whatever. Unofficially, I thought it was a 4.22.
Mm-hmm.
I guess officially it became a 4.21 something, but unofficially it was like a 4.22. So, but just him chasing the record and him wanting to set the record, that was pretty tight. Um, I didn't really watch I didn't really get to see a lot of the running backs run, but I saw a lot of what they ran
Mm-hmm.
per se, and the running backs look a little slow too. Like but that's just a combine though, right?
Yeah. And which they still have an opportunity when they get to and when they go to pro days, which most pro days start next week. So going back, keeping with the receivers, there was 8 receivers that ran a 4.3, 9 that ran a 4.3 or better. Of course, uh, and then like you said, some 4.4s, a lot of 4.4s, and then when we get down, Brendan Rice a 4.5, which this is no USC bias or no lineage, San Francisco lineage legacy bias. 4.5 isn't too bad, but I guess depending on where you put them at. Like you're not getting 4.5 for a number 1 or a number 2 might not be, or maybe do you want 4.4? Do you want? That's a good point. Do you want top end speed for your number 1 or number 2, or do you prefer that type of speed for your slot and for potential? Because now you have someone to take off the top to extend to force the defense to extend to allow your number 1 and number 2 to work out.
I think it I think it depends on the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like certain teams' offenses would allow for you to have a number 1 with speed, right? Like imagine take the Chargers. The way we don't know what their offense is gonna look like now since they had a change of the guard, but their offense before catered to speed, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
why when Mike Williams was out, like Mike Williams got that speed, right? When Mike
Mm-hmm.
Williams was out, it kind of hurt their offense a little bit as far as moving the ball downfield, right? uh, um, in ways as they wanted to, because now you can clamp down on the Keenan Allens and everybody else. You don't have to worry about that threat, you know, um,
Mm-hmm.
taking you down the field a lot. So, the Chargers is just one example, though. When you look, you think maybe if the Bears had a little bit more speed at wide receiver, it'll help out. Getting into routes a little quicker or something, being able to release the ball a little quicker. Um, without the coverage being draped all over you and stuff like that. So I think certain teams,
Have
speed
to
is
have that.
a necessity, and other
So
teams like the Chiefs don't really need speed, right? They've proven that, right?
they proved that here. So the slowest receiver in the combine was Isaiah Williams out of Illinois. He ran a 4.63. And of course, we know the fastest, in which is all-time fastest currently Xavier Worthy with a 4.21. And then you have everything in between that. Basically, when you look at it, I guess it just depends, because you just made some great points, and when you spoke about and brought up the fact of that you're going to be able, you can get coverage? Like, can you get out of coverage with that lack of speed, or what is your footwork like? Because you don't have the top end, and what makes them fear you, but what is your footwork looking like to make you to where you can get into your roles, you can get into your route, you can sit up and run your route properly and get some separation based on that. So I mean, I guess you're right when it looks at it. Some teams are going to be in need of that, other teams not so much. You were just bringing up the wide receivers. Isaac Garendo of Louisville was the fastest type of running back at 4.3 with a 4.33. And then, of course, the slowest was Audric Estime from Notre Dame, 4.7. And then, of course, you had everything in between that. No huge burners, I guess you could say, unless 4.4, 4.3. But then we're talking about time. Then you get to a point to where, and which I'm very sure you're going to bring up, your linebackers and linemen are running the same speed as your running backs and wide receivers.
That's what I was getting at. Like, if you reach a certain point and you run it, like, you got D linemen running faster than, you got D linemen running faster than that. So yeah, that's up for grabs.
Fastest lineman, Dallas Turner out of Alabama, 4.46 in his 40. Defensive tackle of 4.7, which not really anything to talk about. The fastest lineman 4.92 with Rosengarten out of Washington. But of course, like you said, the linebackers are fourth. Peyton Wilson out of North Carolina State, a 4.43 40, which that's enough to be able to chase down these wide receivers, or be able for at least the split, like you were just saying, a split second, be able to keep up with them in the route to where you might force the quarterback to go a different somewhere else because you're in the route, you're with the route, you strive for stride with some of these receivers to where it's hard for you to sit up and do you have enough time to wait when you have that defensive end, that defensive line, the end is coming with a 4.46 speed off the corner, like, you know what I'm saying? So what starts to look and see is speed is a factor, I guess. When we talked about that and bring that up, a couple of ones, I guess is we get a look at what it is when you talk about speed for these players, because we always talk about what does the combine's 40 time mean outside the fact that you might have a burner. But what does it mean for all the other stuff? Then we take in consideration the shuttles, the 3-cone drills, and all that type of stuff, where it shows you use different mechanics with the speed element. What is it that is really what is being presented to you? And I guess, like you said, a little less in that department when we're talking about the 40. But when you look at the mechanics of the players, was there any that stood out to you a little more, or from what you've seen?
Not really. Not really standouts as far as. I think it's hard to judge that when you're running cones and not against people. Cones don't move. Cones don't really obstruct. They don't really obstruct you. It's like Bruce Lee. Remember back in the days? What's the movie? He boards don't hit back. So it's like the cones don't move. They don't really give you a representation. Like, if we could base it off cones, then Cooper Kupp was probably the best route runner ever. I mean, you know what I mean? But he is an excellent route runner, right? But we didn't know it until we actually saw him in action. So I look at it. I wasn't too impressed with the cones and all that stuff. The drills that they run. Because we know we gonna see you against people. We're not gonna see you against cones.
So when you look at it, looking at quarterbacks, what do you think about the fact of some of these quarterbacks decide not to participate in certain drills? Like, of course, I think it was like 14, at least 14 quarterbacks that were at the combine. Only 4 of them ran the 40. With Keaton Slovis having the fastest time at a 4.5. Spencer Rattler ran a 4.9. So and then you go forth and look at like the top tiers, but of course the expectation, I believe, is that they're going to probably do it in or at their pro days. do you what do you think has come up with when you look at this where these quarterbacks decide to not partake in certain drills and stuff like that, and even one perform it at their pro day or not perform it at all and just be like, I'm just going to leave it where it is? Do you think they're hiding something? If you were a GM or coach or a scout looking at it, how would you take that? What would be your perception of what that is?
Well, it's just unnecessary, right? Like you quarterback, like um, it's really not, like overall, is it really gonna matter how fast you are? I mean, your scramble gonna be your scramble, right? Your move's gonna be your move. So I
Mhm.
think as a GM, you got to keep an open mind that it's more branding these days. People trying not to get injured or not necessarily having something held back, but maybe a mystery. I mean, you know what I mean? Like if I show you outside of pads, what are you gonna have to judge me on when you draft me? You know what I mean? Like what are we gonna have when you draft me? So I look at it like nothing to hide, just picking the times on when you want to, right? Like it's like you don't bring a pitcher to spring training and say throw 1,000 pitches. I mean, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like it's
Yeah.
like you don't warm up on certain days, right?
True that. So, of course, the draft, April 25th through the 27th, for day one and day two. Um, so at this point, the players are just getting warmed up. Like I said, pro days start as early as next week. I think the first, I think on the 11th or the 12th, the pro day will be, I think, Bo Nix. So that's Oregon's pro day, or was it JJ McCarthy? It was someone's pro day. I can't remember. Was starting out the rip to where you would see them. So combine or pro day, which one do you think is would be more indicative, just giving you a more of a look at what this player is that's being looked at?
I think pro day. I think combine you can blend in, right? Pro
Okay.
day you sticking out like a sore thumb. All eyes on you is is you period. So I think um, pro day is more. I think it's more pressure in a pro day. Um,
Okay. Why's that?
I think it's because it's the pro day is set up for that individual to show their skills or whatever. So everybody knows the rumors. But coming into it, everybody heard, well, this is a weakness, that's a strength, and so now they're gonna play you for your weaknesses and your strengths. Whereas I think at the combine, you can blend in, right? And uh, your strengths and your weaknesses wouldn't stick out as far when measured against a group of people versus just you by yourself. Now it's just all. So now everything has to be. I think you got to be more accurate. I think you have to be more. You got to show some of your versatility. You got to show so many different things by yourself versus when you with the pack, it's like, oh, but this was the average. I mean, you know what I mean? And they can say, well, you was right there in the average or you was above average or whatever. But when you by yourself, it's like, oh, you look like that. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it can
It's
go
like, oh,
either way.
you're not as high as we thought you was. In which, for the most part, it doesn't say that you won't get drafted. It just might be your draft stock might drop a little bit, or what I'm saying, or you just start seeing. So you even going to in-state, both obviously are, of course, are meant to give an insight to, I guess, if you do well. And even though you might do well in the combine and the pro day, it might not perform great in the league in general for the most part. So it's definitely like when you look at it, it's this point is just reference points, like you saying. You might put a little more emphasis or a little more pressure on the individual going forth when you're looking at, like you said, I'm here. I know what I've always looked at is at pro day, you're engaging and you're working with people that you have had a rapport with for the majority of the year. So is that a fair grading stick when you take in consideration at the combine, you're working with players that you haven't passed to, you haven't thrown to, you're trying to, and you really don't know their what it is to where you might be comfortable with throwing certain passes to a certain player that's going to be on your team because you've been working with them, and then you come up and you have a problem with, and then you can't um mesh well with someone that you don't really know. It's like how after the first couple of times, it's like, did you figure it out? Excuse me, were you able to adjust properly within there? It's like, so all that. So he said, what's going on? And Anthony Price says, I have a problem with Caleb Williams. That's what's he hiding. So everyone believes Caleb Williams is hiding something, in which I don't know. Is that a fair assumption? We talk about a Heisman Trophy winner just 2 years removed from the Heisman Trophy. And then the last year, although it wasn't the best years, but he statistically had some good numbers. Do you think Caleb is hiding something?
No,
Okay.
no, because we've all seen him play. We've seen him play the last few years. He's been big time in a lot of games. He won a Heisman Trophy. I mean, I don't think he's hiding anything. I think it's just waiting on the right time to show and tell. What people have to like, we forget it's a business. This guy has a brand already. They
Mm-hmm.
coming out of college with brands now. I think that's gonna change the game a little bit more, right? As far as what you see and when you see it. So I think now it's just a matter of look at me, world. Like like all eyes will be on me soon enough, and you'll see everything that I can do. Um, but if you're only interested in certain teams, then why show all the teams? I mean, I'm starting to look at it like Caleb Williams already said he only interested in certain teams. So he only going to show off for those teams when it's time to show off for those teams, right?
And of course, he stated that he wasn't giving it. One of the things that Anthony Price might be talking about is the fact that Caleb Williams, former USC quarterback, 2022 Heisman Trophy winner. One of the things in which he stated is that he wasn't giving his medical records to anyone. Like he doesn't. That he doesn't want to. He doesn't want. He's like, why does everyone need to see his medical records if they don't plan on drafting him? It's like, what? So what good does that do? He said a team can always trade up. Oh, so someone can trade up to go get him. So as you know, saying looking at it, right, as we was talking about the make or break when it comes down to the combine, per the NFL.com, it was a couple of players in which that they think was able to turn the tide based off of Chad Reuter's perception. Whose stock went up, one being Isaac Giordano from out of Louisville. The running back ran a 4.340. His jump was 41 and a half inches, 10'9" when you look at the broad jump. JJ McCarthy, who seemingly everyone's now high on for whatever reason, I don't know. We're gonna talk about that in a second. What we think about JJ, who only lost one game in his college career. I mean, that's something. Ladd McConkey out of Georgia. Xavier Worthy, of course, who's 4.2. His speed has put him in a certain stratosphere. Jalen Wright, additionally, for a running back out of Tennessee. And, it's two people that I would hope that the 49ers will go after, right? Two people that I hope they can get in those late rounds. One is Ricky Parasol from Florida, the wide receiver, and the other being Ladd McConkey, out of Georgia. I'm hoping they can sit up and find a way to get someone to put in a Cooper Kupp-ish. Think about we have Wes Welker, saying those type of players, because that makes in the West Coast offense those type of wide receiver helps out tremendously. Like, let's get that type of receiver, especially now. Of course, we're probably gonna speak out a little later that the possibility of a Brandon Ayuk wanting to leave and possibly trading Brandon Ayuk to move on from him. With that type of stuff, you need someone, and Brandon Ayuk is a two, is a two player. So we need to bring something in that's going to be beneficial to us for the most part. But JJ McCarthy, you think is it fool's gold in his rise? Because we got to take into consideration he won the national championship. He's only lost one game in his college career. Is he fool's gold? Like, think about Bennett, who's in LA. So what do you think about JJ?
Well, he different than Bennett because Bennett was old, right? Like Bennett was
He had some years in him. Yeah.
like Bennett, like aged out the program or something. You know what I mean? That's what I'm just saying. Like,
Bo-
but I think McCarthy. I think playing for Michigan set himself up to get good looks, right?
uh-huh.
No matter where he ends up in the draft, and I think he'll get an opportunity at some point to play. But um, I don't think I don't think the hype is because, well, yeah, it is because they won a national championship, and last year they was pretty good. Like the last few years they've been pretty good, but JJ the last 2 years, um, he played all right. But you got to remember he played for Michigan a couple of games. They didn't even throw the ball that much. I think one game he threw like 8 passes, so I think he got a lot to prove as
Hmm.
far as really being watched or whatever. But I think JJ, I think if you're looking for if you're looking for somebody to come in right now and can manage a game, he probably can manage a game, right?
Who's game
That's what I
managers?
look at. He probably can manage a game.
Of course, who is stated as the draft stock has dropped on Florida State's wide receiver Kenyon Coleman, Troy Franklin, wide receiver out of Oregon, Bucky Irvin, running back out of Oregon, which in my opinion kind of like puts a dark dim point on Pac-12 and their players. Like all there's no huge numbers came out of the Pac-12, although the Pac-12 was a juggernaut at the beginning of the college football season, even towards the end, so to speak, until you got to that same point, just like the SEC happens to do. They start beating up on one another, and then saying the cream, of course, rise to the top, or who best or the best of the year rise to the top because now they're playing one another. So like we just talked about, an older player, Bo Nix comes into play, in which saying we really can hear anything in reference to him. A lot of conversation has predominantly been the top three being Caleb Williams, top three quarterbacks being Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and now presumably Jaden A. McCarthy climbing into that with a whole bunch of like 14 quarterbacks that are coming out, and these are the top 3, 4 that they're being looked at. No particular order. Of course, the ideal is that Caleb Williams is going to be the first pick quarterback, but will he be the number one pick overall? It still remains to be seen. Chicago's keeping tight the vest, as there's always been conversation about the Justin Fields, Caleb Williams situation. So I guess it's more to be seen. So, but do you think it's fair? JJ McCarthy, um, is that a fair? Do you think he gets that fair to push up to number 4? Actually, when you think about it, is it fair that JJ's pushed to number 4, and even Drake May is in the conversation when you have Heisman Trophy winning Jaden McDaniels, the other quarterback that played in the national championship in Penix, Michael Penix Jr. So, do you think Drake May is where he should be?
um, I think May gonna be a higher. He gonna be a higher pick than most people thought. I wouldn't be surprised. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if Caleb Williams is not the first quarterback taken.
Really?
I mean, in this
Okay.
draft, I wouldn't be surprised. Um, I think people feel like there's other quarterbacks. You hear these other quarterbacks' names mentioned. Um, of course, Caleb Williams would be the ideal thought, but we've seen it before where like they don't always pan out, right? Like you don't always end up being that pick. So I think unless somebody trades up or the Bears are willing to part ways with, like you said, you don't know what the Bears gonna do, but I don't know if it's gonna be necessarily Caleb Williams being the top quarterback. I think Drake May one of the top quarterbacks, if you ask me, um, to be able to. What I'm looking at is um, out of these quarterbacks, who gonna need development and who could probably come in right now and have an impact. I think May could go in the right situation. He could have an impact. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, like say somehow he was to somehow get to like the Minnesota Vikings or something with their receiving core. Even if they lost Justin Jefferson, they still got a decent receiving core. With was Osborne, Osgood, I forgot their names, but you still got other players on that team that can make plays. So I feel like a situation like a Minnesota or something that'll be perfect for like a Drake maybe. Um, whereas I think like a Caleb Williams probably wouldn't thrive in Minnesota, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I think it's gonna be about what the teams need in a quarterback. Like, are you looking for a diverse quarterback that can with so much versatility that is scary, or do you just want a quarterback that can effectively communicate the X's and O's and what I'm saying, command the X's and O's and run the X's and O's. Um, you know, so it depends on what kind of quarterback you're looking for. But out of 14, you got everything you want. So it should be no excuses. The teams that are looking for quarterbacks this year, you can probably get you a good one.
Definitely working to get some backup. So moving on from from the draft, of course, I'm not the draft. Moving on from the combine, in which now, like I said, next week starts some of the pro days where some of the players get a chance to be looked at. What do you think about, of course, as of this morning, Michael Evans staying in Tampa? Unfortunate. Staying in Tampa. You know what? It's fortunate. That's where he needs to be. If we can't get him, I don't need no one else getting him. He needs to stay in Tampa. So
I would like to see him in a Dallas Cowboy
I
uniform.
bet you
Just putting
would.
that out there.
I
Just
bet you
putting that
would.
out there. But he won a Super Bowl with the Bucks. Um, played his whole career with the Bucks. I mean, why change now?
Hall of Famer. Uh 26 million for 2 years. 2 more years, of course. Currently in what 9 years, 9 years, 9 season. Um, he's
Hmm.
amounted 1,000 yards every season. Like you said, a Super Bowl winning wide receiver. Now extended another additional signs a 2-year, $52 million contract. Um,
And
I
that's
mean, what else?
dedication because they're saying no matter who the quarterback is, right? I'm here. I'm here for you, Tampa, no matter who the quarterback is. I mean, that's a bold move by a receiver, right?
Yeah, because
Like,
there's no guarantee that Mayfield is going to be the quarterback next year, or who they're going to bring in next year, which kind of could diminish his legacy if he doesn't continue. Like at this point, we expect him to be 1,000-yard receiver until he's not 1,000-yard receiver anymore. But we want that to be a drop off due to his age and something like that, not due to the play of the person who has to get him the ball. So he did it with Baker Mayfield. So I mean, Baker might not be too far off from going ahead and getting handed the reins with a little bit more of a payday. But like you said, he's at this point he's committed to Tampa Bay in the Bay Area, over in Florida. But answer me this: without Godwin, is he going to still be that productive?
yeah, um, he was productive before Godwin got there, so I don't think his production is going to be curtailed because one player is not there anymore. You know what I mean? I think it's the next person up. I think he's proven that he one of the better, if not, well, consistent, if not better than what I'm saying, than people anticipated, and he stays steady with what he do. So I don't think it's gonna change just because Godwin's not there. Put another person over there. I think whoever lines up across from gonna benefit.
Okay, instead of it
He'll
being that.
benefit to play with Mike Evans.
Yeah, I was about to say, instead of it being that they're benefiting because they're able to do work and open him up. He's people at some point, maybe opposite of that, someone's going to benefit from the fact of now you have to cover Evans and do something, and that allows someone else to get the work in. Okay, I go with that. Joe Burrow, who we did not get to see. And you know what? Honestly, we did not get to see a bunch of quarterbacks this year. No Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson. Um, Was there anyone else? Kenny Pickett. Uh, any other?
See Kyler Murray after the end.
we didn't get to see Aaron Rodgers. Does that change the fortune of those teams next year? You got to take in consideration. We already know Cleveland. How they worked out in state, ended up getting their coach of the year. They got a comeback player in Joe Flacco, who we probably won't see in the league next year. So when these quarterbacks in which we just mentioned, I guess you could even say Kirk Cousins maybe, even though they were does even any of these teams misfortunes change next year because they get their quarterbacks back or
I think
drop?
the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals will be a tougher team. I'm not gonna say that they're gonna win anything, but I think they'll be in the hunt for a playoff spot at least. Um, like maybe a 7, 6 seed or something. Maybe 5. I see the Cardinals. I see the Cardinals making a push with Kyler Murray, a healthy Kyler Murray. Um, you can pretty much situation because I actually think it's time for them to move from Kirk Cousins. But if you
Mm,
are going to keep Kirk Cousins, then you got to understand where your ceiling is um, until he can prove different, right? Like we've seen what Kirk Cousins can give you, and we saw what Minnesota was going to be even with Kirk Cousins. I think they still finished around where they were, where they might have made the playoffs. Like, cause they were going to be a playoff team up until a certain point when they got Dobbs. So, but I look at it, Kirk Cousins, his time in Minnesota might be done. It might be
hmm
time to bring in something new there. Um, and Kirk could still land on his feet somewhere. Somebody can use a Kirk Cousins somewhere else. Just don't know where yet. But when you look at it, it's a few teams looking for a quarterback. Like Kirk Cousins, it wouldn't be a bad move to see him in Denver. It wouldn't be a bad move, like it wouldn't be a bad move to see Kirk Cousins someplace else. Like Pittsburgh looking for a quarterback. Uh, you could throw Russell Wilson name out there, but New Orleans looking for a quarterback. So I think Kirk Cousins is gonna be fine. Um, Aaron Rodgers, you don't know what you go. The Jets, I don't think the Jets are going to be good next year either. Just because you put so much on Aaron Rodgers' plate. You depending on one person to get you out of that complete hole. A 7-10 team, 2 years back to back, which indicates that you got other issues outside of quarterback. Quarterback, but you're gonna win one or two more games with that. 9-8 still won't put you in the playoff picture in the AFC.
So based off what you just said, right, in which you're talking about the New York Jets 7-10, they went 7-10 with their same personnel that they had 2 years back to back. You don't think that potentially Aaron Rodgers and his all his prowess is going to change that, or you just think it changes for 2 games to where? So is there something to build on there for them from 7-10 with what could be seen as a lackluster
Okay.
roster for that time?
So here's my thing. The Rams, remember the Rams went all in to
Yes.
win a Super Bowl. They went all in and they won the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? They went all in and they won the Super Bowl. And what really have they been after that? Like we saw some uh they resembled a good team this year, right? This past season or something. Um, but they still weren't all the way there. So I look at it like the Jets. You got to commit. Are you going all in, or do you just want to be a playoff team? Because if you're going all in, I feel like you gotta. I feel like you got to make other moves than Aaron Rodgers because the indication is that you're trying to go all in to win. So if you're going all in, you have to think about it. The Rams did more than just make a move with the quarterback situation at the beginning of the year and all that. They brought in Odell Beckham. They brought in Von Miller. They made other moves that put them in. You know what I'm saying? That put. So I think the Jets, like, if that's what you're trying to do, then you got to make other moves. Then you got to say we all in. And if you're going out to win, then go out to win. Because then you'll have the perfect excuse after that of why you rebuilding, right? Other than getting the Aaron Rodgers, still not making the playoffs, and still having to rebuild and move on from Aaron Rodgers. You know what I'm saying? Like moving on from an old quarterback. He's 40. So I think you got to go. If you the Jets, I'm not saying I don't really like the organization. You know that already. But I'm saying, man, you got to commit. Go all in. Go all in. Go aggressively. Go after some free agents this off season, whatever. Um, so that you're trying to win a Super Bowl.
What do you think about Deshaun Watson and how his career has started so far on the restart in Cleveland? Not really. I mean, when he played this year, they were successful, losing 1 of 6 games in his games. Um, he was a little shaky last year, of course, but that was shaking off the rust after not playing for 2 years for the most part. Do you think we finally get to see the better, especially now Nick Chubb should be back next year? Later on this year. Do we see a better version of the Cleveland Browns finally with Deshaun Watson and company?
You don't know because he's coming like off a shoulder injury or something, right? So you don't
Yes.
know how that's going to affect his pass game. How it's going. But from what we saw Deshaun Watson playing within the scope of that offense and them being high and them being effective, even though he's not putting up big numbers. Um, if everybody keep waiting for the Deshaun Watson to be the Deshaun Watson of old, but the Deshaun Watson of old was younger. You got you know what I'm saying? Like so it's like you don't get younger, you get older. So I think um um you see he getting a little bit more wise with his play choices and stuff like that. I think he's gonna be a he could be a mature player. I think um they was a playoff team this past season. I think they'll be a playoff team moving forward. But I think with Deshaun Watson, it at least gives you that chance that hey, if things fall into place, you might be able to win it all.
And last but not least, Joe Burr. Joe Burrow coming back from yet another. Like Joe Burrow has been around what, 6 years, 7 years,
About 4 or 5, right? Somewhere in there.
4 or 5 years out.
5.
2 of the 45 years he lost time due to injuries, surgeries, and stuff. But the last time he had this situation, he came back strong and ended up taking the team to a Super Bowl. So when you look at history, we can potentially see another situation when Joe Burrow has resurrected, and he's back, and and his team is back in the hunt again uh, for a Super Bowl. Do you think Joe Burrow's time is running out for these antics and these comebacks and stuff like that, or is it just business as usual? We're gonna see some good play for Cincinnati.
I mean, he gonna give you exciting play, right? You saw the games that he played, they weren't that good this year. They weren't. I didn't think they were gonna be that good this past season. Not just because Joe Burrow hurt or whatever, but they still like the Bengals got a decision to make. Like
Mm-hmm.
when are you gonna start putting pieces around to go all in? We saw you come up short in the Super Bowl. Uh, is that Joe Burrow's peak? Losing in the Super Bowl? I think you can get more, but you got to put other pieces around him. I think they got to stop worrying about so many. When you got a talent like Joe Burrow, stop worrying about who the receivers are because a guy like that is going to spread the ball around and get the ball in the hands of the right people and could possibly make a wide receiver better than what they projected to be, right? So I wouldn't worry about the T Higgins and stuff like that. Like I wouldn't worry about who coming, who going. I would start building my offensive line around this quarterback, so that he can deliver the ball to these other receivers.
I guess that's a fair assumption. We just talked about Kirk Cousins. We don't know. Is it time to move on for him? I guess you said it's probably about that time, or maybe a year too early. I think it's a year. I mean, it's unfortunate he's in the contract year because it would be suitable to if he had one more year to give him opportunity to see if he's going what he'll look like, especially coming off his injury, and then take in consideration. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on from him, but it doesn't hurt to go ahead and draft a potential incumbent now, regardless of what they're going to do with Kirk Cousins as he gets ready to come back. Like you said, Kirk should be available or eligible, even if he doesn't get it there, to go somewhere else and be a backup or to challenge for a starting position. You still have teams that obviously seemingly aren't solidified on their players, and like Pittsburgh, Kenny Pickett, he went down, but you see, as we talked about, it seems like he's being shot. They're shopping for a better person in that position. But what do you think about, and somewhere where I think is in flux, even though they have a young talent there, what do you think about someone like Kirk Cousins in Tennessee?
Well, I think Tennessee, but Tennessee, the Patriots. It's a lot of places where Kirk Cousins' services could probably be used. Denver, even right? If they're moving away from Russell Wilson, look at Denver. I see. It's spots where I think Kirk Cousins he'll go there and he'll at least make that team competitive. Like we can't say that he didn't make. Like maybe his stint in Washington wasn't all that competitive, maybe, right? But since he's been in Minnesota, he has brought his team to the party for the most part. You know what I mean? Like it's the playoffs or things like that. Like he's been a decent quarterback. So yeah, Tennessee. My issue with Tennessee is which direction is Tennessee going? Like, because I think Tennessee moving on from Vrabel, or you trying to um, pick it back up with winning ways that Vrabel had established prior to these last couple of seasons, or are you trying to just build? Because if you're trying to rebuild, stick with Levis. But if you're trying to win, then Kirk Cousins might be that person.
So, of course, it came out for sources, and I want to know, this is your insight on this, especially it being your squad. What do you think about the possibility that Tyron Smith will not be back with Dallas?
Doesn't matter. He spent a lot of time injured the last couple of years. Let's just keep it real. Like he ain't been health wise, he ain't been the most constant thing that we've seen, and I'm so sick of it. I said this before. Um, I know that according to somebody's stats and standards, this guy is like a all world, all pro guy, and all this other stuff. But we suck in the run game, and a lot of it is because these guys are injured, right? They can't flex. They can't get to the block. It wasn't just him. It was Martin. It was a bunch of our offensive line that. So it's like I'm not worried about you, Smith. I think we got our good. Like you've done well for us. Thank you for that. But now we need a younger offensive line, in my opinion, or at least people that can run block. These
Mm-hmm.
guys can only pass block per se. We need somebody that can run block.
The 49ers, as we talk about both parts of squads, the 49ers have made some personnel changes now. Of course, we discussed in which we didn't understand as we talk about why Steve Wilkes is no longer a part of the organization, where he equaled or did better than the defensive coordinator previously, who is now currently the head coach in Houston, and D'Amico Ryans. They have gone ahead and decided to promote after a little search, even though they said they were no rush. They have decided to promote from within as Nick Swanson, who was the defensive pass game specialist game coordinator, as well as the nickelback coach, has been promoted to the role of defensive coordinator. And then in a lateral move, in which is going to be interesting, they hired Coach Staley as the assistant head coach.
Yeah, he's bringing his analytics to the party now. Um, nah, I think it's gonna work out. It's the 49ers. Shanahan. I mean, come on, four straight NFC championships. I don't see the. Like I feel like, but could that become a problem? My only question would be, would that become a problem at some point? You keep switching. The last um, couple of years and stuff, you switching the defensive coordinators, you losing parts of your coaching staff here and there, quarterback coaches.
At some point, it has
Uh,
to, yeah. At
you
some point,
know, you, So is it gonna catch up with you, or is like I don't know what Sorensen's philosophy on defense is gonna be right away, and is he gonna get the same respect that a Steve Wilkes get from the players? Things like that. I mean, you look at stuff like that, but um, I think the 49ers. I'm not gonna second guess them. They seem to know what they're doing to keep a hold on the NFC. So, so so you
So
gotta trust that they right.
So you know what is funny? So what I feel like and what I'm seeing right is they definitely, in my opinion, John Lynch has a system, right? And I feel like his system has been to backfield and have someone on reserve to go forth. So that way, based on the fact that their coaching staff has been plucked and plundered and picked apart from people getting positions or moving on to other organizations that have some type of that have decision power, and they pull from where they was just at. So in this case, looking at it with Sorensen being promoted, he has been in the 49ers coaching room for at least 2 years, in which you've seen D'Amico Ryans go. We've seen a couple of people go. So maybe he does has a philosophy. I'm very sure John Lynch had went through and did his due diligence and looking at having conversations to determine like, okay, this is what happened. So he was around for D'Amico Ryans and he was around for Coach Wilkes. So now it's like, okay, but of course, D'Amico Ryans and Coach Wilkes played different played were trench guys, you know what I'm saying, in a sense. Sorensen is a DB guy, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, is that transition going to be fair? Or you know what I'm saying, or do they still have continuity for them trench players to sit up where it's just now his philosophy is going to be based on that philosophy in which Coach Shanahan wants to go forth with, and they can now play off that, you know what I'm saying? Because let's be honest, that's where our strength has been, in the trenches. So it's like, in doing that, do we do this? Now the hiring with Coach Staley, Brandon Staley, is he's a D guy, right? As like you said, he comes with analytics, but he's a D guy who has the ability. He was a defensive coordinator before taking over, you know what I'm saying, his coaching duties in San Diego. I mean, LA, Los Angeles Chargers. So now you put it in a position where, okay, you have another guy. The continuous like, okay, we bringing in someone that can take a look at what our culture is, and if need be, step in to become the next person in the culture. Or do we have a situation to where, just like I felt like with Wilkes, in which I wonder how much insight does Coach Shanahan have when it comes to the personnel for the coaching staff? Or is this just John Lynch being like, hey, we're going to go with this guy, and he's going to put him in the system? Because at some point, you got to take in consideration, I'm very sure Coach Shanahan isn't hiring potentially his next replacement if things don't go right. But John Lynch may be doing that, putting someone in place that he wonders if this will be the next guy. Because you would think, I would like to think and believe that Shanahan's job isn't in jeopardy, but what have you done for us lately? Like you doing the same stuff that you was doing in Atlanta.
I think I think the relevancy, like if you got rid of Shanahan with with the 49ers still, like without Shanahan, would they have made it? Would they be dominating the NFC? Would they be dominating the NFC like they dominating the NFC right now? I mean, I don't think. I think Lynch and Shanahan go hand in hand right now, and I think they seem to be out of GMs and coaches. They seem to be more on the same page than a lot of the GMs and coaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even more so than the Eagles. Like everybody was hype on the Eagles moves that they've been making and they general managers making and stuff like that. Um, but it's like the 49ers are like the creme de la creme. Outside of them, you talking the Kansas City Chiefs, right? I mean, outside of the 49ers. So I think they got a good thing going. And you might be right as far as Lynch's philosophy, bringing people in that's easily promotable. But for me, that's a good strategy, right? Because you don't have to keep looking on the outside, and you don't have to keep holding these hiring events, right? Like you could just promote from within. So I think it's a good strategy, and I don't think a lot of people look at it that way, right? Um,
Mhm.
because you see a lot of teams, like you take like Carolina didn't have an effective plan as far as like what moves they could make outside of once they got rid of Reich, right? Everything seemed to be lost, right? It shook up the whole coaching staff. Like nothing was already steady, but it got more unstable when they got rid of the coach, right? Whereas I think you saw the Raiders stabilize when they got rid of their coach, right? You saw the opposite, right? The Raiders played a little bit better. It was so I think the 49ers think you got the best of both worlds, and I don't know how long you're gonna have that. My question is it gonna work this year like it's been working in the years prior?
So of course, saying shout out to my man Anthony Bartley, in the land of Mu Beta Phi, Rockhound, my military Greek letter organization, brother, a part of that. So yes, brother, you know what it is, navy blue and orange all day. But saying also Anthony Bartley is also defensive coordinator and owner of the, is it River City? I can't. I think it's River City. In any case, I won't get that because chances of I look to have him back on the show. We can have a conversation. But he goes forth and he says Shanahan needs to be fired. Is that emotion speaking, Anthony? Is that emotion as a 49er fan? We're speaking that, or do you think 100% that Shanahan needs to be fired? Like, and what would be that reason? Like, he's there, and like I would like to say right here, right now. Cedar Rapids. I'm sorry, Cedar Rapids. Yeah, Cedar Rapids River Kings. I stand corrected. Cedar Rapids. Um, Arena Football. Cedar Rapids River Kings. I stand. I stand to say this here today, Cornelius. I'm saying this today. We can log it in, and this is my unbiased opinion due to the fact of I believe in the progressions. So I feel like the progression, San Francisco 49ers will be Super Bowl 59 Super Bowl champions. Right here, right now, I'm saying that on this day, March 4th, 2024, at 10 a.m. in the morning, Central Standard Time, the San Francisco 49ers will be Super Bowl 59 champions based off of the progression that I feel like Brock Purdy has been. Now, I will say this. It is predicated that Brock Purdy stays healthy for the most part. I don't think we have that Cleveland Brown type of game in us where we just going to keep on repeating with quarterbacks. We had that a couple of years ago. I don't think we have that in us right now. So I believe that's what it is. But of course, Mr. Bartley, Coach Bartley, says he is the reason why we can't win. He has never shown that we could win the big game, just facts and emotions as a 49er fan and coach.
Hey, remember when I said that? Remember when I said Remember when I said that, like, but it was all questions for me. Like, do you move on from Shanahan? I mean, should Shanahan? I mean, because 4 years you still haven't won a Super Bowl ring, but you're right there. Like, you challenge him right there. So, I mean, where do you go from a Shanahan? Like, what's an upgrade? What's an upgrade from a Shanahan in the
McVay,
league? I'm just saying, in the league today, what's an upgrade? You know, um, Like, do you go younger? Do you
no,
go? I mean, if you're the 49ers, who do you replace Shanahan with?
Sean McVay.
McVay not leaving LA to come mess with you.
Well, I'm just
Like,
saying that's about. I think as best you can get is Sean
I
McVay.
mean,
He
but
said,
I'm saying, like,
yeah, Bill, that's too old.
okay, I feel like I feel like Bill would be an answer for a year, right?
A stopgap.
I think he'll be a good answer for a year. Hell, you might win the whole thing in that 1 year, but then after that, what are you gonna do? Bill's 70 something years old, so I think if you go in like 1 year, yeah, a 1 2 year thing, but it looked like the 49ers, like what the 49ers are trying to do is build to last a long period of time. So if you're looking for a dynasty type thing, Bill Belichick probably not the way to go. You
Mm.
know, But if you look in the win now, maybe Bill.
I think we have to stay within the Shanahan coaching tree, right? I'm talking about his dad, you know what I'm saying, Shanahan. I think we have to stay within that, which is of course is the LaFleur's, like I say, the McVay and stuff like that. But of course, like you state, those are people who are already in coaching positions and have, you know, what I'm saying, could potentially McVay won the Super Bowl. Donovan says Pete Carroll. I thought Pete Carroll for a second, but Pete Carroll is basically a version of Bill Belichick. They up there, you know what I'm saying? So it's like they're only going to be there to bridge the gap until they can be able to find or get a hold of the next person. He says he knows how to win. He knows what something is working. He goes away from it. Case in point, McCaffrey running the ball.
I mean, I said the same thing about Shanahan. Remember that was me saying that he was gonna blow. Like, um, but I didn't necessarily put this last loss on Shanahan specifically. You know, like I put it on it. I put the onus on the players and the defense this time around. As far as the defense, they knew the situation. You know, you need to stop, and they couldn't get that stop. So I look at it that way. I think that Shanahan did all that he could do to keep the team in it offensively, and they called a good defensive game plan for the most part of the game. The only difference is you playing against Patrick Mahomes, and you know you can't give him those chances at the end of the game to beat you. I think you know. So if you want to say he coached it wrong from there, like maybe could have ran the ball here or there a little bit more in certain certain junctures of the game, but for the most part, I thought this was one of the best. That Super Bowl performance was one of the best things I seen Shanahan do because we saw weeks prior to that we saw games getting away from them, and if it wasn't for a couple of plays here or there, they probably wouldn't even made it that far. So I think he messed up more so, yeah, like in those games before the Super Bowl than in the Super Bowl. Um, so I don't know. I think, but like I said, it's hard to replace him. You replace him with Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll 1 year. Like Shanahan gave you a good 4 or 5 years. I mean, you know what I'm saying? 6 years or whatever. He done gave you some good years.
He said he lost. He said Shanahan lost his words.
I don't know. I don't know. Like I thought it was one of his better performances. Considering what they playing against.
Enemy is
Uh, would you want Eric Bieniemy's first job to be your 49ers? Let me ask. Yeah, that's a good question.
no.
Would you want Eric? Would you want Eric Bieniemy to be?
You know what? I would think that depending on next year, because you got to take in consideration if they was willing to bring in Eric Bieniemy, because you got to look at Shanahan as quote unquote the offensive coordinator basically since we lost McDaniels. He said, "Hell yeah." I, Eric Bieniemy, I would first want him in the building as an offensive OC. That's what I would want. I would first want to have him in the building as an OC, so you can kind of like see what his culture, what he does. Like Eric Bieniemy, based on what we've heard and what we heard about when he went to Washington, would that be conducive for the 49ers? Like, is that going to drive them to be a better team and stuff like that? And so, if that isn't going to be the case, then you don't need him in the organization because presumably all it did was drive a wedge between the team and the coach. So you don't want that in your organization for the most part. And so I wouldn't want that to be the same thing that comes in and become problematic because the players didn't receive Eric Bieniemy well. And in state is it wasn't enough for him to be around and be kept. Of course,
Well, I
when you look
think.
at consideration, they brought in Cliff Kingsbury. They traded Cliff Kingsbury for Eric Bieniemy.
Well, I think Bieniemy. I think Bieniemy's starting to get this reputation that he can't be that guy in the NFL, right? because now I think he's searching for collegiate ranks, right? So I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, would you like the 49ers? Like, that's a good question. Would that be a good team, a good fit to get him his first head coaching gig? You know, I would perceive that with caution if it was me.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's why I say it wouldn't give me a warm and fuzzy. That's why I say I would want him first to be a part of the franchise, i.e., as a offensive coordinator, maybe as high as an offensive coordinator before being able to see if he would be able to take over the reins to be the head coach. Now, of course,
but Sam
I mean,
Sam Howell put up some numbers, right? Like,
yeah,
if Sam Howell was a little bit more consistent, then maybe that might make a difference, right? Because he was up and down, like some good
yeah,
passes and then some passes, like he throw it. Like it seemed like sometimes some games when he got stuck on interception, he got stuck on interceptions. Like so I don't know. I wouldn't take the enemy if it was me. I can't believe y'all said it. Replace Shanahan with the enemy. That's funny. Like and I'm all for it as a Cowboy. See the 49ers win a Super Bowl before us, I say, yeah, make that move. Put the enemy as your as your head coach.
So real quick, going into a little transition and stuff before we really get into what is the NBA stuff like that. Of course, we jump back and forth between stuff and something that's worthy of a conversation, then we're gonna talk about it. But right now, what was worthy of a conversation? Caitlin Clark passes Pistol Pete Maravich for the scoring record in NCAA. I have to put emphasis on NCAA because there's other factions out there that were prior to the NCAA, in which there was other records in which, in some cases, hasn't been touched by Caitlin Clark. But right now, she is the NCAA's all-time leading scorer, Division I, when it comes to men's and women's in scoring. Right? Uh, does this even more so solidify? We already know at this point she's she's gonna get into the Hall of Fame even before she even plays a second of basketball in the pros. She's gonna be in the basketball Hall of Fame from a collegiate aspect, hands down. Will this amount to her being exceptionally well in the pros, in your opinion, the WNBA?
I think it's about her skill level already. We can already see she's gonna be a good scorer. I mean, what are you gonna change about her game? She already an excellent passer for what she does. You know what I'm saying? She can rebound. Um, I think maybe you work on lateral quickness or something on the defensive end or something. I mean, you got to go a long way to try to poke holes in her game. Um, for those that have watched it, those that have seen her play, she no joke with the game. Is a difficult thing to try to hold her. But yeah, she Hall of Fame for sure. Um, but now that you mentioned it, it's like, but how many records she got to break before you crown and you did that already? I mean, it's done. Like what it was, I think they said something about an AAIW. I don't even know what that is. Whatever other record she chases, that she 200 points behind or whatever. I don't even know what
The
that is.
her or more all-time leading scorer. So yeah, like she said, Anthony was saying, Pearl Moore has over 4,000 points scored before the NCAA was established, so it wasn't one of those things, but she has more points scored from there. So
That's what I was saying. How many more records she got to go before she's done?
so it's like we said, for me, I look at it. She's like Caitlin is bar none. You know what I'm saying? She's definitely she fills up the stat sheet, and she has garnered, you know what I'm saying, information. It's just now the emphasis on NCAA compared to whatever it was prior to the NCAA. So yes, right now she's dominant in NCAA, and she has proven to be a scorer in NCAA. Like you said, with Pistol Pete, now they're calling her Ponytail Pete, in which she knocks it down in grand fashion, taking care of business over number 2 ranked Ohio State, getting the dub and breaking the record now she continues on, but of course, will that
So my
amount in?
question is
Go ahead.
about these other records and stuff. See, when we start talking all that, like, when is it a cutoff? It's like that'll be like us saying the Cleveland Browns championships for Jim Brown, they count as Super Bowl wins. They don't count, right? like they don't count as Super Bowl wins. They did it all before the merge, right? They did it all before the merger. I'm just saying, like,
So
when it comes to some of these records, it's kind of a slippery slope to me. Cause
it's true.
like,
So I get your
yeah,
point, and so that's why I say, I mean, because I think it's more of a given a, I ain't gonna say a homage, but I think it's just more so bringing some type of awareness and notoriety to, yes, Caitlin Clark is this, but there was someone that did it prior to that, because it's like saying, like, the merger between the NFL and the AFL, right? There were champions prior to that, before that merger, but we only count the NFL because the NFL now is the governing body. But there were other governing bodies, ABA, NBA. There were other governing bodies prior to where these teams won in those governing bodies at the time. But of course, things evolve, and so when it got to the next governing body, you don't want to dismiss the fact of these players were in this governing body, or like we talk about when they first started off with the Peachbacks, or when they started, because there was a point to where, like, some of the statistics that get recorded now wasn't being recorded back then. So it minuscules um the fact of we played these games, I scored these points, but they don't get they don't get any type of recognition or anything because they wasn't being recorded at that time. So it kind of like, and I think that's where the point become at. Of course, honestly, let's just keep it what it is. Is we also being driven by the simple fact that Pearl was a African American woman, and which back then we all know that wasn't going to happen. That someone of, saying an African American woman was going to sit up and be given any type of notoriety and stuff like that. So of course it goes on unnoticed. But now that we're in more of a time frame in which it is differently, then it's something to take into consideration. Like, yes, we're saying big up in Caitlin Clark, or anyone for that fact of the matter, or even because I continue to wonder, like, would the rhetoric be different if it wasn't Caitlin Clark, or if Caitlin Clark had more melanin in her skin, would it still be the same energy? So I'm more so on the energy aspect of it. I get the fact of it, saying when we talk about it was a black woman that did these things, that accomplished these things, we're giving this information, we're giving all these Hail Marys and graces to Caitlin Clark, who happened to be a white woman. But if Caitlin Clark was black, would it be that, or a case like that? Because I could assure you, if Caitlin Clark was white and she was the one that did these things, and it was a black woman that was sitting forth that we was talking about, then the conversation definitely would be that white woman did this. So I think that energy is there. But when you take in consideration, this is what it is. So of course we want to make sure that the respect is given to the proper people, and that's being talked about. And I think that's where a lot of it comes in at. Now, if Caitlin Clark was to put up those numbers, by the time that it's over, all said and done for her, and she's sit up and got that, and she's eclipsed those numbers as well, hands down, there's no conversation to be made anymore. She's outscored everybody, no matter what record you put in front of her. She's outscored them, no matter who, what, when, where, why. That is the case. But I'm very sure she's not chasing those records. She's solidified at this point. NCAA is the governing body now. So she's locked in, loaded, is over. You know what I'm saying? She's outscored men and women within the NCAA Division I at this point. So that conversation is shut. That door is shut. What Don say? Who would y'all draft as the LA Sparks, Clark or Reese?
I'm taking Clark. I like Reese's game. Right? But I'm taking Clark, and I'm taking Clark strictly because I feel like she the best of both worlds as far as passing the rock. Like,
you talking Clark?
She can do more point guard things Clark can, in my opinion, than Reese can. Than Reese, even though they both got nice packages to their game, I would take Clark by a slight edge over Reese. Plus, we saw them get down last year too. You know, I think Reese, like, For me, it'll just come down to the passing. That'll be the only separation that I would make between the two. I like both of them, but I would take Clark just because LA gonna need somebody to distribute the basketball, and I think Clark can distribute the ball better.
Well, Clark is not going to get. They're not going to even get to smell Clark. Clark is going to probably be a Indiana Fever player in state. So, but but due to the letter of the question that was asked, I agree with Clark. But outside additionally, what it says, I think sometimes emotion could be a slippery slope, and I think sometimes Angel Reese tends to be too emotional in those aspects, and with that emotion, I think that could potentially drive or sit up and harm or hurt a person, or it can be beneficial. It depends on where it's placed for the most part. So I think I think currently that Clark might be a little more level-headed in that aspect and not allow the certain points of the moment to get to her. So that would be something I would factor into it too, in which in that case, I would probably draft Clark as well. So definitely good conversation. Huh? In any case, both of them good conversation. So you couldn't go wrong with either one of them, and they will both add to that mystique within the Sparks, or would become clearly the new front runners and be leading the Sparks team potentially, as they are currently under the shadow of the Aces tremendously, unfortunately. Shout out to the LA Sparks. Do you think that? Do you think that the South Carolina Gamecocks are champions this year? Does Don Staley do it again?
They undefeated. They running through. You know what I mean? I like their attitude. I like the coach. Her approach to things. Like I love her little comment. That little video, the little viral video they had passing for a while, where it's like, hey, they booing. Like, hey, they was booing you out there. No, they was calling me boo. Like they was showing me a lot of love. I like her attitude toward things. Like they was calling me boo. You know. I like that approach. I think, I think South Carolina, they're gonna be right around there. They're gonna be Final Four at least, right? Um, I'm not sleeping on. Don't sleep on Gino's squad this year, man. Paige Beckers is back. I'm not worried about the regular season record or whatever. Just watch out for the Connecticut Huskies in the tournament, the UConn Huskies. That's the men and the women, by the way. The women, they coming. Like, never count Gino out when he got a full squad. Um, and don't sleep on. I mean, even though it's a far cry, Ohio State got a pretty good squad. Even though they lost to Caitlin Clark um, and company yesterday or whatever, or the day before or whatever. Don't sleep on Ohio State. They play a balanced attack. It's certain teams I see, but South Carolina is gonna be hard to do something with it when they beating everybody in front of them.
Of course, I would like to say add to your don't sleep on three teams out west, being Utah, being Stanford, and of course being USC for in the women's game. Those three teams. Additionally, like you said, of course, UConn's men and women. Iowa State, LSU is still, I think, potential is still a problem. Baylor could be a potential problem. So,
Well, LSU just now getting hot now, so they might be getting hot at the right time. I think they done
correct.
won like 6 or 7 in a row or something like that. But they winning at the right time right now. To put pressure going into the conference championships or whatever the conference tournaments and stuff. Like they picking up steam at the right time. But I don't know. South Carolina, they just gonna be hard to stop because they play so physical. They out physical other teams. If you can out physical in the modern times, watching South Carolina play ball, yeah, they out physical you, and they beat you to the spots all the time. They quicker, they stronger. I don't know. It's gonna be hard to stop them.
so of course, going to the men's side of the equation, Houston back on top as we talked about last week as a number one seed, been getting back there again. followed by Purdue, UConn as aforementioned, Tennessee still hard, Marquette. Although Marquette, did Marquette lose last? No, did they lose yesterday?
Marquette lost the other day. I thought. I know for sure they lost the other day to.
I think they lost to.
I want to say they lost to Creighton.
Right.
Huh?
They lost to Creighton, I think.
That's what I was saying. They lost to Creighton, right? I
Yeah,
said this morning they lost to Creighton.
definitely. So you know, what I'm saying, like, all that being said, more to be talked about, of course, as we get ready to get into the tournaments for the conferences, which of course the conference that would determine another champion, as they get two champions prior to the big dance invitations. In your opinion, we know the tournaments add a mystique to, you know, saying, viewing. Do you think there should be more emphasis on the regular season and deal away with the mid-season tournament?
No, I think in college ball it works out well that you have these tournaments, right? Because then you get to see the shakeout of what teams belong and what teams don't, right? Like you get an early look at who's what and who's not before you start the tournament. I appreciate the fact that they have the tournaments, right, in college ball because like like the early tournaments, the invitationals and stuff, you get to see the mixtures of the teams. You get to see some of the ranked teams play each other. But then when it comes to the conference tournaments and stuff, you get to see um, you get to see the top teams in the conference battle it out, right? So it's not left up to chance. It's like, hey, if you won the tournament, then you deserve a spot in the bracket, right? Like it's simple. Like when you keep it that simple, it's easier and it don't come down like college football. It's too much goes into picking the top 25 teams, right? Or the top five teams is always, these different parameters. But hey, if I just beat you head up or if I beat you in our conference tournament, then I deserve to go and you don't. I like that philosophy.
So, you know what I'm saying? So, two-part question, right? As before we get into NBA conversation. One being that in what you was just speaking about, what if correct, and I'm getting at that, Chris, and just, saying, ride with me on this one as I engage coach as well. What do y'all think about the fact of, true enough, like you just said, the tournament aspect? So with the tournament win, what ends up happening is that tournament team gets the automatic bid, you know what I'm saying, from that part. So when in-state is when the team wins that championship, regardless of who they are, if they caught fire, they just that hot team and they get a bid. Now it depends, like the committee continues to determine if they were a top tier team or not, and they get an automatic bid, but they could be a 12 seed, a 10 seed, or whatever case like that. And then, of course, within their conference, depending on those teams that did work over the course of the season, they could get a higher seed. Do you think that? I mean, that is somewhat what the current model is. So I guess it works out where it determines, like, everyone still gets in potentially. It's a grading portion, and then of course you have the test, and then if you pass that test at the end, because you graded well over the course of the season, you can still potentially get in. But so what I was about to ask next is, how do you think that would bode well if NCAA football took on that same concept when they played played football, played in the tournament, if they did that instead?
I don't think it would work in football because it's a whole different setup, right? Um, Football, you don't play as many games as basketball would. Um, So I don't think it'll work in football as far as like a tournament type thing. I think the way like we don't even know if this playoff thing is gonna work out with the 12 teams or whatever. And they talking about adding two more teams, making it a 14 team thing, which I think that's oversaturating it, right? I think 12 is a stretch already. Um, but I think it works better in college basketball when you have the tournaments. I don't know if it'll help football just because the conferences are viewed differently, right? Like the SEC is considered like the creme de la creme of conferences when it comes to football, right?
Hmm.
Maybe the Big Ten is next, and then I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody else gotta get in where you fit in if you're not SEC or Big Ten or like those teams seem to dominate the top 25. So when it comes to football, I don't think you would get much of a difference when there's that much of gaps between the powerhouses in the conferences and the teams that's just in the conference.
Okay, definitely without a doubt. So going on and moving in, what's good? What's going on, Coach Shaw? Well, how you doing there, brother?
I mean, I can't complain. How are you guys doing today?
All right, all
All
right.
right.
So moving into some NBA conversation. Of course, we all know that this past week, another milestone was achieved by that man called King James. That milestone being a 40. He is now the exclusive member, the president, the vice president, secretary, VP of the 40,000 point club, and is probably going to remain in that realm for a very long time, right? But unfortunately, in that case, it came in a losing effort. So I will ask y'all gentlemen this: record record or the standings? Which one would be more preferring to you if that was the case?
I'm a Laker fan, so I'll
Mhm.
say that I would rather have the wins. Right? I was not a fan of. It's hard to say I'm not a fan of LeBron James because LeBron James is a great player and
Mhm.
he's great to watch. But when I growing up in the early '80s, I was a Lake Show fan, Magic Johnson. So and then of course Kobe came along, right? So I was never a Jordan fan either. Let's be fair, right? But respect the greatness.
Mhm.
So the records aside, I want the wins. I want a championship. I want playoffs. That's what I want. Now Nuggets are a great team. They play with them for 3.5 quarters, but you gotta close the gap.
Mhm.
I feel the same way. I said it all before, right? Like for LeBron, it's about what a rings at. Like you got four of those rings. Like you've been there a bunch of times, but you got four rings. So I'm not. I'm just saying records are cool. You can have all the records. Remember, before he got this record, second on the list was Karl Malone. Karl Malone got zero rings, so he gets zero respect when we start talking, right? I mean, we ain't talking about him being a goat or being close. I mean, I'm just saying
True
when you
that.
start looking at it, it's like, yeah, LeBron. I already said it. One more ring, and the goat conversation might drastically change, right? Get in the five and up club, it might drastically swing.
So you're basically saying he's in the wrong club. Basically, he's the
I'm
only
just
person
saying.
in the A club, but he needs to get in the five ship club.
Right. Well, look at who holds the assist record. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, how many rings does the person have that's holding the assist record? Like, we don't even mention it, right? But we still say Magic Johnson. You know what? Magic, what, third or fourth on that list now, assist list or something? Like, he ain't number one. So you start to look at it like, what is the records worth?
So shout out to Donovan and Snow. So Snow, it's not that we're choosing. We're saying for one, it's just the content of the question. But so of course, when you take a look at it, when you look at for those who are might have, you know, what I'm saying take superstitions into play or whatever case like that. Every time LeBron has broken a record, the Los Angeles Lakers have lost. And every time he has set up and eclipsed them in the points, the LA Lakers has lost. Even go so it's like when you look at it for a play in the content or a case like that, is he like when you look at that, if it was a world in which that was the trade-off, would you give up the record or would you give up the lone win in that aspect? And so that's what the question which was being asked. Of course, we know he's not, saying he's trying his damnedest to get the dub, but it's just not playing out. And saying, so I'm saying, like, if you had the choice, would you give up the dub or would you give up the record? If knowing basically what has happened over the course of his career, going back to the 20K point, the point in which he passed Kobe, Jordan, and Karl Malone. all L's, but it's one long L. But still, would you rather give up the L or the record? Is what it was basically was it for content? So, staying in the conversation, we talk about LeBron, as I see Donovan was asking about. KG supposedly stated that he believes that LeBron is on PEDs because he has been at this for a long time, over 2 decades, in which isn't the quarrel, but it's the simple fact that he's performing at a high rate, in which another former player who isn't necessarily a LeBron fan, so it's two different perspectives. When we talk about Enes Kanter, or AKA Freedom, has basically said the same thing, where he's like, his statement was integrity is greater than 40K. Why are they coming for LeBron at this point, in your guys' opinion?
I mean, everybody wants to take shots at someone that's on top, right?
That's what I'm saying. When you're on the throne.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Garnett. I mean, what's he talking about, man? I mean, I'm 5'5" and I weigh more than he does, right? So, I mean, he's just mad that that he ain't that big, or he's still playing basketball. That's just people hating on people that are doing great things. That's all that is. People want to hate the person on top. Period. It's the same reason why I just discussed why I'm not a Jordan fan. You guys see, I got a Jordan jersey right up here, right? But I respect the guy, right? I respect LeBron James, right? Why can't everybody else just do the same and just enjoy what's happening right now? Same thing with Caitlin Clark. You guys were talking about that earlier. Enjoy what's happening right now. Enjoy basketball. It's great. It's a great time.
I mean, I agree with that. As far as what is Kevin, I don't know, Kevin Garnett. I mean, you ain't never heard of LeBron doing anything like that, man. He's been an upstanding player. I don't think he would cheat the game in those ways. Even though I did hear the rumors, I mean, I don't know how true it is. They say he spent like $2 million on his body. So, like, I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what you do with that kind of bread as far as preparation and stuff, how you prepare, spending that much money on your body. I never heard of it. But, yeah, stop all that talk about the man's integrity when you know he's been the quill, he's been at the top in that. Like, you never heard of this guy doing anything like that. So I wouldn't put too much into it. It's just something to talk about.
But was it surprising to y'all, like, to hear, like, I could understand hearing it, like Enes Kanter, I could get hearing Enes Kanter say, "Oh, you know what I'm saying," but your man's Kevin Garnett, your man's in there. This is what
it's not the first time Kevin Garnett. We know Kevin Garnett don't really he don't really like too many people. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, no matter how you try to cover things up, I think it is a little bit of jealousy of LeBron though, because remember he came straight out of high school too, and he couldn't do it at this level for that long. So,
I mean, to me, Kevin Garnett's a step down from Kendrick Perkins. Sometimes they just talk out their rear, right? I don't know if they just pay these guys millions of dollars to get on TV and talk nonsense. I mean, I remember watching Kendrick Perkins when they were talking about the Lakers on First Take, or was it NBA Today, but he just walked out the studio, right? You get paid to do a job. You don't get paid, and you do get paid to tell your opinion, but it seems like he's just again, Kevin Garnett, Kendrick Perkins, they're both haters. They're hating on greatness. Why can't we just accept what is happening and what is going on in basketball today? Stop looking at individual players and how jealous you are of it, and just start accepting it for the levels that they're playing at the age they're playing at, and the greatness they're playing at.
So, as you was just saying, let's celebrate the greatness in the things of the type in the basketball that's being paid. He said, "You tell them, Robbie." Shout out Coach Justin. What's going on, Coach? For Sam Rangers in the building. Snow, of course. You know what, Snow came at me the other day, right? Which we're gonna get and talk about. Snow came at the other day because he felt like I made an erroneous statement or a valid statement, because I was like, "Hey, who's coming for JBLE, right?" Because I mean, right now that's who it is. I'm like, who's knocking off JBLE? And so Snow was like, "Yo, hey," you know what I'm saying? So I was like, "Snow, come on, man. It's just It's nothing personal. I was like, I just report, you know what I'm saying? This is what it is. I know, I got you, fam. It's all love. So, you know what I'm saying? So, of course, we're going to get into that in a few minutes in reference like military basketball. JBLE is like one of the top teams, you know what I'm saying? And has been doing that. So, you know what I'm saying? And in case, just like we talk about LeBron, you know what I'm saying? JBLE in correlation is that in military basketball for the most part, because they're starting to string along some dubs. And so I take this back even further. When I first had Lou on the show 3 years ago, he stated that JBLE was a problem. He stated that JBLE is dominant, but due to the situations that happened, JBLE couldn't compete because of some situations. And he's like, so everyone is just getting a reprieve because we not around. Here we are, fast forward 3 years, JBLE is exactly that. So, I mean, sometimes you just got to take, you know what I'm saying, you got to hear what's being said and be like, hey, that's what's up. So, you know what I'm saying? So that's part of it. What's going on, Lou? What's good with you, bro?
What's happening? Appreciate y'all having us on again, man.
Oh, yeah, no problem at all. But like I was going to say real quick before we get into the reason for the season, Coach's poll, a couple of things happened last night. Nurkic pulled down 31 rebounds in one night, and then the Dubs, for the third time this year, dropped a 50-piece on somebody. But like me and CC was talking about prior to that, this was against the Warriors. The Warriors was hot stepping, hot streaking until they ran into that buzzsaw in Boston. So in any case, is Nurkic more dominant than what we thought? In second place, is the Celtics more dominant than we thought, and potentially this year's NBA champions?
I'm gonna just get it out the way. I got no faith in Nurkic. We gonna see. You talking about the same Nurkic that balled up on the floor when Draymond? Is that the same guy? I don't want to hear that about Nurkic being dominant nowhere. I'm gonna be like a Shaquille O'Neal. I don't want to hear that. Nope, not at all. Played pretty good at times. He always had that in him, even when he was in Portland, right?
Correct.
He played pretty good at times.
He's a part of the big three.
And as the second part of your question, yeah, the Celtics looking like if they gonna shoot like that, it's gonna be hard to beat them. Like, and they didn't even have Porzingis yesterday, I don't think, and they were still that good. I mean, in certain quarters, they look like they don't even miss.
Who they play?
The Warriors, the Golden State Warriors yesterday.
Yeah. I don't think Boston no championship team because they ain't got no dominant big man. I think the Warriors on the team that was really capable of winning without a dominant big like that. And as good as Jason Tatum is, he's super sporadic. And I can't see you going 7 games and shooting the way they do. They got to have excellent guard play. I don't feel like they're at that point right now. Just my own personal take. And then yeah, Nurkic, he a little soft to be considered to be that dominant. You know what I mean? So I concur with the coach on that. But every NBA champion I see, they have somebody that's somewhat of a dominant big. And Porzingis ain't that, and you're not gonna win no chip watching Jason Tatum go 1-on-1, taking turns with Jaylen Brown. It's not gonna happen. That ain't the way basketball was meant to be played.
That part, 31 pull downs is crazy for one man. That's crazy. But I mean, you know what I'm saying, to y'all point, of course, when we look at it, dominance has been exacted in certain ways. Of course, we know, like you were saying, Curry, his shooting or their ability to shoot, Wiggins' ability to get on to follow up is what got him a championship. But be outside that, when you look at it, has anyone did it without a big man? Is that the reason? You know what I'm saying? Is that the golden standard, or is that the chemistry? I mean, the equation for a championship? I guess we'll see as you get closer and closer to it. We see that's what got him a dub last year for Denver over Miami.
Big man.
So all y'all guard heavy teams out there. Big man.
Maybe I'm just old. I'm still playing like Hakeem Olajuwon suiting up, but I ain't never seen teams consistently be great without a big. Hakeem, Shaqs, all of them. That's what make championship contenders to me. But I'm a geezer in the game now. You feel me?
No doubt. So, real quick, of course, since the last time we spoke to y'all, there's been at least 2 to 3 Snow says nurtures is tough to deal with, especially healthy. True that. I believe that. Coach Johnson says LA. So going in, since the last time we spoke to y'all about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we was just a few days before the classics, being the Chris Crawford on the West Coast and the Capital Classic on the East Coast. And since then, there's been a couple of games that's been played, a few things that's come out. Just today, earlier, the poll was dropped for NMBT, or yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Yesterday evening, the poll was dropped for NMBT, basically giving a synopsis where some people have already earned their a potential invitation to the championship, because as basically what we was talking about earlier, when it comes down to the tournaments in the conferences and the regular season play, the NMBT favors the regular season play more so than the tournament, due to the fact of if a trash, I ain't gonna say trash team, let's not say that, if a team that hasn't been consistent in winning catches fire and wins the tournament, now they are a team that is in potentially getting the automatic bid to somewhere where potentially they may not be deserving of, honestly. But when you have your regular season play, the consistency is, if the winning is there as a consistent standpoint, then that's what the reward. So of course, via that, there's at least 3 teams that have with 11 wins that have basically, for the most part, we get closer to the end of the season. And certain in what say the Military Basketball Association's conferences have solidified dubs, and then of course JBLE, who is running away with their in their records, have 11-1 records or so forth, and those are the teams have already for the most part solidified, potentially in which they at some point those coaches will be getting invitations to the tournament, as the tournament will be next month in April. So as Coach Johnson said, he's trying to see the poll. So, you know what I'm saying? Now we have put a moniker on that. Now, take into consideration that as the coaches stated last time, we're not talking about, they're not judging based on the poll, you know what I'm saying, this poll. This is just their perception as coaches, and talking to other coaches, that this is where we feel like it is, just no different from the AP poll and the BCS poll. So, of course, when y'all see them, the polls side next to each other, is not like a comparison, like, oh, this is where they're wrong or we're wrong. It's just to give a looking at, this is where it is. Yeah, is rankings not standing. So, you know what I'm saying, in some cases, the standings don't line up with the ranking, but based off of what you take into consideration, it makes a difference. So, of course, further ado, let me make sure where it's at. We'll pull it up so that way we can you can have a better look at things. So, of course, as we look forward, this is on the left side, you have the NMBT's poll. On the right side, the coaches' polls, going off the top 15, of course, with the coaches and the as well as the NMBT's poll. You top up top Raptors reading away, and then so on and so forth. So with the coaches poll, right, gentlemen, please, if y'all will, this week, what went into your give me Riley in the top 10? He said what this week gave y'all an idea of where you was going with this. Of course, we know Langley being number 1, holding it down as they were the first time. But what about from 15 going back up through JBM, Henderson, and more and so forth, so on and so forth?
Well, so what we took into consideration, we looked at the Chris Crawford Classic, and then we looked at the Capitol, and then there was some NBA games this weekend where there were some pretty big wins by some teams, and some I wouldn't say eye-opening losses, but losses we didn't expect some teams to take. And and we talked about last time how we didn't really talk about, how many people you travel with. You didn't have everybody. Every team can kind of state that, right? Every team can go, well, I didn't have everybody this week. I didn't have everybody that week. It's about who you travel with. It's about who you play with. And it's just going about and representing your base, your unit, your team. And so with that said, I think a couple of the biggest movers, obviously CMB beat Riley, I think by 25 or 6 after they took an initial loss. So we bumped them up. Eisenhower, I believe, went 0-4. And I think Lou just dropped out. So I think he can't back me up on that. But someone correct me if I'm wrong on that. So they kind of took a hit. We're kind of sticking with Fort Sam at 3, but I mean, there's a heavy debate in our coaches poll chat room about that. We think that their tournament record stands pretty high, even though they took some forfeit losses this weekend. So, it's fluid. Yes. We're well aware of that, but so Cannon got some votes for the top 15 because of what happened, because they beat West Texas. But all 5 coaches have to have, I'm not gonna say they have to have you in the top 15, but if only 2 coaches have you in their top 15 and the rest don't, you're not going to make our top 15. And I believe I had, and I'll say it. I mean, I had Cannon at 13, I think, because even though I've personally, Peterson has beaten Cannon twice this year. Okay. But I know what Cannon is capable of. I know what Cannon can do. So I respect them. And so after they finally got healthy, they took it to a good West Texas team who we previously had in the top 15. So I'm happy to say I think Cannon's one of the top 15, 16 teams in my eyes. The rest of the coaches don't see that yet, but in time I think they will.
Okay. So as Lou drops off,
Lou not back?
No, he came back on, but he probably did get back on. So of course, like you said, Langley in the coaches poll, Langley at 1, Pendleton at 2, Fort Sam 3, at Liberty is 4, Camp Liberty is 4, Luke Air Force Base coming at 5, CMB Colorado CM Military Basketball at 6, Fort Cavazos, Mayport, Miramar, Eisenhower, Riley, Eglin, Hawaii, Moore, and then of course JB Joint Base Henderson Hall for the coaches poll, in which, like you said, as we look at the NMBT poll, of course, if you see the asterisk, that means that Oregon team is likely to get an automatic bid at this point with the asterisk, because they are clearly and concisely ahead in their conference or have already basically won out in their conference. So, of course, that all makes a difference, like I said, with the conference play. And, of course, you have Fort Liberty at the 2 compared to the 4 in the coaches poll, but it's still in the top 5 for the most part. I seen Coach Johnson stated that he would have Riley in the top 5. So in yours, why in you guys, I assume basically from what you was just saying, that for the coaches that voted, Riley wasn't a top 5 contender, right? Is that what we basically looking at?
Yeah. So we talked about this at length, right? I've seen Riley play twice this year, 3 times, plus Veterans Day, right?
Oh, I said top 10. I'm sorry. Oh, that was Watkins said top 5. I'm sorry.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I got nothing but respect. I mean, going to battle with those guys. I mean, my team is average. You see my team on Mr. Richardson's poll we're 18, right? Every time I've played Riley, and now this is my own team's fault, but I've had double-digit leads and we've lost the game, right? This last time in the fourth quarter, we had a 9-point lead in the fourth quarter, and I believe, and we lost by 4. So that's kudos to Riley, right? But then you go out and you get, I mean, CMB was really up 30-something. Okay, and so after they came into Colorado, beat CMB by, I don't want to quote it exactly, but I think it was single digits, right? And then CMB said, okay, we're going to come back. We're going to be at full strength. And then we're going to, and then they made a statement, right? And so in my eyes and a few other coaches' eyes in the poll, because I'm keeping, besides my own, I'm keeping all the other coaches' top 15s private.
Mm-hmm.
So in mine, I had them, I got to go back and look at mine, but I think I had them right around this 10-11 range. They're definitely one of the top teams in the Central. If not, and I would say top 3 to 4 teams in the Central. And the Central, to me, top to bottom, is one of the toughest conferences in military basketball.
Okay. As the comments is currently going off. Lou, your insight on top 15 or your top 15?
Yeah, my bad. I don't know what was going on with my phone, man. It kept kicking me off.
Oh, you good?
But yeah. So you talking the top 15 in its entirety, or are we talking about Riley specifically?
Well, whichever one. We can start with Riley specifically and then go to the 15 in general.
So we originally, excuse me, if you look at where we had Riley at last month, they was at 7.
Correct.
So they got plenty of respect from us as a group, as far as like the product that they're putting together. But based off of, you know, what have you done for me lately? We haven't really seen them in either one of those big tournaments that we just had out in Cali or out here in DC, to help bolster them, to keep them up there in that top 10. And then on the heels of an L that they took this weekend, it really wasn't a choice but to drop them. You know what I'm saying? And then as far as our 15 in general, like I don't know what Rob said when he was going in. My phone kicked me off, but we talked, like Rob said, at length, like legit argue to a certain extent about what we put in people. Like it's pretty interesting how heated these conversations be within that chat about what we put in folk. It's hilarious. If you could be a fly on the wall and just listen to what the hell be going on, y'all be tripping. You would think that we ain't like each other, but it's legit that we are dogs and we can go talk freely, but it don't be easy conversation. So same thing that we said last time, it's a lot of legitimacy to this poll in the manner in which we rank people and the bias people have for their conference in comparison to not the ugly truths that come out when we tell the people about themselves. It's pretty legit, and that's the reason why I think ours look so much different from what you see when you pull up the NMBT. But I think it's as good as a product as as good of a product as you're gonna get when you got I don't know if Rob said it or not, but we added additional coaches to the poll. So now the coaches poll consists of 6 coaches instead of 4, and everybody come to the same consensus and have to agree on things. And it's like I said, the same thing with people all across the nation. And they get them cold hard truths about what their product look like, but it helps us come to a legitimate consensus about what we're looking at without having favoritism. So I like this product that we got this week, especially looking at the comparison to last week. I think it's pretty much real solid based upon those last 2 tournaments and what happened this weekend, because a lot of teams took L's this weekend that we wasn't expecting to. So these numbers got reshuffled within the last 24 hours.
Yes, I did get a message saying that there was a new there was a update. So but in Clay, of course, you know, saying, Coach, at any time you feel free to jump in if you have any questions. But of course, looking at the 2 polls, like I said, even though there's not a correlation, there is in a sense for me. So, but for the most part, because we know the top 16 goes for NMBT, in which one of the reasons they continue to have the poll is he stated that it's to give as close as a outlook of what potentially it is going forth. And basically between the 2 polls, there is basically everyone in between the two poles. If that was the case, it would be going to the NMBT tournament at this point. You might have different rankings, but for the most part, the top 15, y'all's top 15 is all in what is at this point would be their top 16 to a extent. Let me see.
Yeah, with the exception of West Texas and Herbert.
Yeah, West Texas and Hurlburt.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I remember actually discussing to put Hurlburt in our top 15.
Mm-hmm.
I got outvoted, but I like the score. I saw they beat Fort Moore, right? And so Fort Moore was previously undefeated in their conference.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go in and do that. I think they had a decent record. I think they're third, and I think Timo can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if he's on. But it's fluid, and we all have different opinions, and that's what makes this thing great, right? I appreciate all the hard work put into it for sure.
When did Herbert beat Fort Moore?
This weekend.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you're looking at it. So I see someone say Hawaii. I think that was Coach Jay. Why was Hawaii down? I assume it's still the conversation, which seeing people play people is key, or playing. Military basketball is unfortunate for Hawaii, where their geographical location is. It kind of puts them against the curve, but they are getting games, I suppose, just the same as Peterson. Lackland is playing games. I know they played out here in San Antonio against a college, I think the other day or last weekend. But is Hawaii further down than what y'all last poll was, or was they consistently or basically around the same place?
No, we didn't even rank them. We wanted to see them play against. Yeah, we wanted to see them against other military teams.
Okay.
And I don't remember. I know they beat a shorthanded CMB squad. I don't remember the other team they beat. And then they lost to Miramar. So I think they went 2-1. I could be wrong on that. Again, someone always correct me if I'm wrong. But they came and they beat who they were supposed to. If they were number 3 team, they should have beat Miramar, right? But Miramar beat them, so they got respect from us for sure. And then that's why they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they deserve to be in the top 15, but they don't deserve to be 3. That's for damn sure. A number 3 ranked team is the team that makes it to the championship. It's not a team that gets eliminated in the semifinals the first time they face military basketball. It leaves us to question who you're playing still, which is always the situation. But to see them play military squads like that, it's not a situation where you can leave them out, but of course they're not going to be ranked as high as they can be. I kind of feel like that's a bit of home cooking for them to be that high. It's not substantiated. The biggest mystery in military basketball right now is probably Hawaii. Nobody know who the hell they are. Besides what they brought, nobody really gonna know what they bringing until they pick up their free agents. That they gonna pick up the 4 or 5 dudes that they sneak on their roster or whatever. It is what it is, and then we'll see them in Texas regardless, because they're still in the top 15. But I can't put you at 3, not over Luke, not over Sam. I know a lot of these teams that we get to see go do battle constantly. And it's no disrespect to them. That's just the nature of the beast. You know what I'm saying?
I see a couple people in there talking about it doesn't add up or whatever, right? You could say however you want. If you want to, if you want to come in, I didn't even recognize the guy's name. So
no.
Right. Shit ain't adding up. Yeah, right there. I was like,
what's not adding up?
What's not adding up, right?
That's the real question.
I think he plays for.
Okay.
I think he plays for Riley, I believe, potentially.
We lost
no,
CMB and Eisenhower. So no, like, that's not when 0-4 in double digits. When 0-4, all double digit losses. But hey, who am I?
Who is this?
Okay, so he's talking about Eisenhower with 0-4. Yeah, he's talking about how Eisenhower went 0-4. Yeah, and then, I mean, listen, right? He talked about my team going to the overtime with the Club Blue, and I'll tell you, this ain't an excuse, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we won the game, right? We drew up a play in the fourth quarter. My guy came off the screen. He dropped the three, went to overtime. We won, right? My team ain't never seen anybody 6'11". I mean, the Academy Blue team brought a former D1 player from the university down at 6'11", and right, he was dominating the boards, getting a lot of N1 putbacks, and we didn't handle it correctly. Riley, to their credit, when they played him, they handled him better than we did, but they had a chance to see it. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you win who you win against, and the outcome matters to me, right? And I have no disrespect for Riley. Riley is a very good basketball team. In the Central, you have Sam, you have Cavazos, you have CMB, and Riley. I put all four of them in that category, and they beat a good Cannon team too, if I remember right, at Veterans Day, right? And that's a matchup I'd love to see now. The Central is a very tough division. No one should take any disrespect from being ranked in our poll, number 11, and then in the Nationals, they're ranked 12. But you're on our poll about how low you're ranked, and we got you higher than the Nationals poll. So, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, yeah, you speak the most with your beef. I don't even know who you are. I don't have no beef with you, right? I mean, I got no beef with anybody.
This is a Riley player that's talking right now.
It's got to be, right? I tell you, man. I'll post my phone number.
Dre said it's the Riley captain.
Right. Oh, okay. I mean, that makes sense though. Like
this number 7. I'm speaking on everybody. I mean, I don't understand what you're. Yeah, I don't understand what you're talking about. We're speaking on everybody. Listen, I said I had respect for your team. I said I had respect for what you guys do. I said you're one of the top teams in the Central. I said you're better than me. I don't know what else you guys want me to say. Right? I'm talking about all 15 teams. The question was brought up about Riley, so I answered it. That's it. Peace.
I don't know Riley at all, but if we look at where the rubber hit the road, it is what it is. That it was ranked high. He was ranked number 7 last time, and y'all took an L this weekend. Y'all haven't played in tournaments. It's things that substantiate these other teams to be ranked higher than y'all, like tournament wins, championships, runner-ups, things of that nature. We don't see that from Riley. So it's your entire resume, bro. I don't know y'all, so I have no reason to be personal with anything like that. And then we sit here, and I'm told how well you guys play as a unit, but you still gotta win.
I mean, listen,
like the team that you lost to was the team that's number 6 in the poll, right above you guys last month. The only way that you would have moved up would have been had to beat them. Somebody would have failed. Y'all failed.
I think part of what he's talking to, which Crystal I know is saying that she's fine with the rankings, you know what I'm saying? But I think he's pointing out Eisenhower, but you talk about a body of work. Eisenhower is ranked above them. He said they took 4 L's this weekend.
Okay. So we can speak on that too. Before you remember the ranking that you got before we sent you this new one, Trey?
Yes.
You remember how high Eisenhower was?
Okay.
There's like number 3, number 4, or something like that, and that's based upon the Capital Classic. That's based upon the Capital Classic show they put on. We haven't had anybody challenge Langley this entire year. We was down by double digits to them dudes with less than 10 minutes left in the game. We made coaching adjustments and came out on top, but ain't nobody challenged us like that. So that put them way up, and that was in the semifinals. And we just said that you get recognition for being semifinal and finalist teams in national tournaments. You're not gonna find a tournament bigger than the Capital Classic or
Chris
The
Paul.
Chris Crawford, yeah, within this time frame. So they went out there and they showed that they was like top 4 in the nation, and then they had to travel out there to go. Plus, we're also looking at the roster. They got 3 all-service players on their team that's consistently there. Their roster don't really change. It's not saying that y'all's do or don't, but they got the same treatment that y'all got. They took L, they took 4 to the head, going to a tournament with none of their starters. Cool, it's the military. I for one said that I understood why they lost, and I was gonna keep them a little bit higher than 10. But the gross majority said no. So they dropped from like 3.
I mean, I
to
just
10.
looked, they dropped 6 spots.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
They initially y'all had them at 4. Initially y'all had them at Eisenhower initially was at 5.
Yeah.
And now they're at 10. So they dropped 5 spots from where you had them initially.
Riley dropped 3.
Mm-hmm.
So y'all not the only people that's getting it. You know what I'm saying? This is very, very unbiased. I don't give a damn who it is, who you play for, or whatever it is. This is just dollars and cents. It's real simple. You know what I'm saying? They took 4 L's, they dropped 6 spots. Y'all took the L against a quality opponent. Y'all dropped 3. Because you got other teams that's not losing. You got other teams that's winning and they still have a better resume than you.
Right. And
it is what it is.
And I can speak on this, right? So what we do in the coaches poll, right? We all have our area, right? So this weekend, Riley, I just happened to be there for your games. So I'm able to speak on what I saw, right? And so, yeah, I mean, you guys destroyed the club team. You beat us, right? And then you lost to CMB, right? So what I said, what I see is you guys destroyed the club team. You beat us by 4, right? And then you lost by 20 something, right? CMB full strength is deep. There is no, especially when you beat them before, there's no disrespect intended there, right? So, but when I go play CMB, I lose by 15, right? So what does that say to me? Nothing. It means we played a tired CMB, or we played a CMB team that just got off the bus, wasn't warmed up.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't say I get to move Peterson higher because I played CMB better than Fort Riley. No, I'm still, man, my team's not even being mentioned in the coaches poll top 15.
Mm-hmm.
Not even mentioned. So it doesn't matter if you lose by 1, 4, or 15. To me, on my poll, but other coaches see it differently.
So going off of what I was just saying, talk about the Central, in which I talked to Ace this morning. We had a back and forth in which he gave me, which you can find anywhere on the NBA, but the Central, one of the NBA's conferences. CMB currently 11-1, Cavazos 10-2, Riley 10-2, West Texas 84, and then I guess you could say, of course, going further down, Peterson 7-5, Tinker 7-5, Cannon 6-6. Is that? Okay. 5-7 for it says 5-7 for I guess that's Fort Sam. It looked like the Rangers.
Yeah, that's accurate. And so what we took in consideration for Fort Sam is they have 3 tournament wins. Okay. Right. And again, we all don't agree that Fort Sam should be number 3.
Okay.
But based on the averages of the coaches poll, because we take 6 coaches, I basically average them out and try to figure out where everybody sits. Okay. So, I mean, I honestly had Fort Sam at 6, I think 6, 7. I wanted to put CMB in front of them because the superior record, right? But other coaches say, well, hey, Fort Sam's got these tournament wins. Okay, so let's move it up, move it down. I get it.
I mean, my bad. Go ahead, bro.
No, you're good, man. You go ahead.
Hey, you look at Fort Sam L's. Fort Sam L's also not going out and taking them on the chin. Those are forfeits.
Okay.
Like I'm not finna give you clout for taking a win against a team that didn't put their shoes on the floor. I'm not about to give you clout for getting a L when I'm not gonna hurt you for getting an L when you didn't play either. So we got teams that's got great or immaculate records, and they ain't play no damn body. Hell, you look at Langley. I think we about to have like 4 or 5 losses, but it ain't for nobody putting buckets on our head. It's from forfeits, because I'm not about to have guys traveling for no damn reason, or when teams not traveling down to see us like that. You know what I'm saying? Okay. It's still a lot of politics within this game, and the records aren't really showing of the talent, which is the reason why we have to pay so much attention to records like that. You thinking that these people are still paying for their own games and stuff. The times that you're going to see these teams actually go out and compete are going to be tournaments, because they're trying to get the most bang for their buck, and not just 4 games in a weekend. You know what I'm saying? You go to a tournament, it's 3-game minimum. So you're really looking at 4 to 6 games if you're a winning program, and that's what people want to do. They want to go play basketball.
I mean, to piggyback on that, right? What we do, right? I mean, I'm a retired master sergeant. I don't make buku money, right? But when the NBA had to move the games from previous week because of the circumstances that happened in Nebraska, I stepped up. I got my sports director involved, but the only money we have left in the budget was to pay for the games at the end of the month, the NBA games of the month. So I had to help cover officials. And officials for 5-6 games ain't cheap, man. Right? I couldn't go ask the other coaches to help, which I'm sure they would. I know a couple of them are in here, right? If I would have asked, right? But that's not their responsibility. It's the host coach's responsibility to make sure everything's taken care of. So I don't think enough goes into the fact that, as coaches, as players, we spend so much money. And kudos to Fort Riley, who only had to travel to Offutt the week before, got moved, had to come all the way to Colorado Springs, probably money out of their own pocket, right? It's just crazy to me how there's not an avenue to get that done. Sorry, I'm off my soapbox.
No, that's okay. Because as you saying that, I had some stuff went through my head. So, got it. Duly noted. I'm gonna put the pictures of that, and definitely that's gonna be a conversation that we're gonna approach at a later point. So, I just seen Snow was like, Luke has been quiet for the most part. We haven't heard much from them. Shout out to Luke Air Force Base and Coach Paris. We see him with his NJCAA trophy the other day that he posted. But currently, Luke is 11-1 in the Pac West. Camp Pendleton 8-2. I see Coach. Coach Mitchell was in. Miramar 6-4, Nellis 6-4, Davis Mountain 4-6, and then so on and so forth. So evidently, Luke, 1 game lost on the season, in I guess in assumingly conference play, which has given them an automatic bid. Going back to talking about JBSA Fort Sam Houston, I think don't they have an automatic bid into the tournament as well for winning the Joe Hall Classic? Coach Dre, I know if he's in, can verify that. I think they have automatic win bid into the tournament due for that dub. And then of course in the Atlantic Coast, Fort Moore 11-1, Herbert 8-4, Scott 8-4, Eisenhower 6-6 currently. And that's what is the top tier in that conference. So of course, like you said, as you get closer and closer to the end of the season, as we know, the coming weeks, you're going to get the conference championships, and then it's going to go from there. Well, Coach Mitchell said the Marines are just happy to be playing. Roll the basketballs out, lace them up, let the chips fall with their way. Shout out to the Marines, all service champions. So, I mean, in correlation, as y'all have stated, I ain't gonna say defended, have talked about and given a precursor, under the hood peek at how y'all get y'all rankings to where it's based upon that, which seems to like to be doing 6 people voting. I guess there's definitely, I hope y'all enjoy the temporary glory. I guess you're gonna say, of course you're gonna have it, but is there a representation for the most part from every conference that gets talked about, so that way it's people to speak for the said conference?
Absolutely. That's the whole way that we built the poll. Originally, when we had the 4, we tried to make sure that the 4 encompass every region of the nation, and then we added 2 more just to to add legitimacy to the poll to make sure it's not to seem biased like what we just had when they were talking about Rob and not liking Riley or whatever. That's the reason why we put other coaches in there. You can't have 6 people all against one squad and think it's going to be reflected in the poll. But then at the same time, we have multiple people in all of these in this poll that's able to see these teams. So it's more than one set of eyes on. It's also situations where they're streaming and letting us know how we can go lay eyes on these teams too. So absolutely, we're making sure that it's somebody that can logically speak for each of these teams. The only team that's really considered to be mysteries is
Hawaii.
And at this point, Luke, because we don't know what the hell they're doing either.
Oh goodness. So a question real quick, Coach Mitchell's that Christopher just had in reference to, he's like, because JBL is about to check the tournament, some L's based on what you stated. Is that going to still potentially keep Langley at number 1? I know you just said based on what the coaches believe, and there's probably going to be some spicy arguments based on that. Is JBLE still going to potentially be number 1 after the set quote unquote forfeits that y'all may be taking?
And so I'll ask you, can you beat Langley? Hell no. So why would we move? So why would they be moved from number 1? They've not lost all year, except once, and that was in the open tournament. So we lost one time this year, but nah, I can't see it. That was my whole reason for making the comment about the tournament. I mean about forfeits. Well, I don't hold forfeits against any of these teams because you really can't measure, you know what I'm saying, the validity of a team, the talent on a team by a forfeit. We got these conferences and whatnot that basically punish you for not making trips and whatnot. But if you can't afford to go, or mission requirements say that you're not gonna make it, you're not gonna make it. That's the reason. That's the difference between the coaches poll and the NMBT. Like, you still got the eye test. There's no way for you to get an eye test when you aren't playing. So, same thing that I just said about Luke. We ain't seen them, but we know what they had last year. They got forfeits for wins this year. You know, I can't hold that against them. At the beginning of the year, we said that the reason why they were still ranked number 2 is because they hadn't been in a situation that forced them to falter. You know what I'm saying? And then they won the tournament earlier in the year, and they won the one that they hosted down in Phoenix. So they got championships under their resume. But how much have we really heard from them? Not that much. But their resume allows them to stay in that top 5 like that, because I'm not holding that kind of stuff against them. Same thing with Eisenhower. We said they went and they played those games or whatever undermanned. They took them 4 losses. We got an opportunity to see what their bitch looked like. They still dropped those 4 or 5 spots or whatever. It's no different than having a team that just don't play this weekend. How can you drop a team that doesn't lose or win? You stay there. You know what I'm saying? So, in my head, do forfeits matter that much? Nah, not to me. When you got conferences that's not allowing you to reschedule and things of that nature, that's the situation that Langley falls in. When we have forfeits, we have forfeits because President of the WAMAC say that he don't want us to keep rescheduling games. But ironically, we keep rescheduling games for people that want to come play us and whatnot. But if they got an opportunity to steal a win from us by taking a forfeit, that's what they do. But you know, sometimes you have cowards in your conference. It is what it is. Am I going to praise that? Nah. I'm sorry, it don't make sense.
And which, of course, you know what I'm saying, that's the gospel. And of course, Ray Dot talked about, of course, everything. You play with what you got, which has been the rhetoric since I sit up and have started engaging in this the last couple of three, in which way prior to that has always been the rhetoric that you play with what you got. There's no exceptions to be made if you short-handed in a sense. It's military basketball. That's what the culture is. Coach Collins coming to the saying with a record such as Langley's, a forfeit shouldn't matter in that as much anyway.
Let me clarify that we don't dodge shit. We got two losses as forfeits, and it's because I was at all Navy camp with half of my damn team and all services camp somewhere. We didn't have people to play. And I told them people that 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time, and they still gave us forfeits. It is what it is. We'll deal with it. But when the rubber hit the court, it wasn't that. And the team that we took that forfeit to, we would have played and we probably would have beat them by 60. Ain't no issue there. The next forfeits that we get is purely political. I'm not about to travel somewhere because these teams aren't traveling to us. But that's a Waymax situation. Has nothing to do with not having people to go or anything like that. I'm not about to continue to spend money to travel 4 hours up the road, get hotel rooms, blah, blah, blah. If we're not getting that same thing in return. So until we get back to where we need to be politically, that's what we're looking at. But in that situation, it's only two weekends. So yeah, it's totally different.
Washington said Candy needs to focus on Central Conference so they can get into nationals. Y'all throwing y'all rocks too high, as it was stated. Christopher said he trying to see what that be like to set up a game. Langley versus Cannon.
Langley versus Cannon.
I mean,
yeah, get the nationals. We'll see y'all there.
I mean, listen, I'll say this, right? Seeing both teams, I'm not going to say who I think win, but I know Cannon at full strength is a formidable opponent. You just can't overlook him. That's all I'm going to say. I know. Listen, I played both of y'all, right? Cannon at full strength is formidable. That's all I'm going to say.
All I'm going to say is the same thing. You know, see us at nationals. Get there. We'll be there.
But are they going to be there? I mean, Cannon is like, where are they at on the Nationals rankings?
Who, Cannon? Cannon is 22.
I mean, a lot of teams got to drop out for that to happen.
Yeah, not my problem.
Preach.
You want to get that, do work. Yeah, like Snow said, y'all throwing y'all rocks too high, bro. Y'all got work to do before we start worrying about you.
I mean, what it is what it is. But like I say, it's opportunity, right? It's opportunity. On the coaches poll that the NMBT dropped, it did state that the teams that are probably looking at getting the invitations, and of course there's more invitations to be handed out, a total of 16. Of course, let's keep it 100. Is going to be based upon if those invitations are accepted. And if they don't get accepted, then they believe they continue to go on so they can fill it up. So I mean, in any case, you're gonna look and you're gonna see. We might see some of these teams. You might not see some of these teams. And then y'all get to set up, like I said, settle it on the court, within the square, within the lines, and basically go on from there. So plenty of opportunity. In-state is once y'all lace them up, and it lies where it lays.
Absolutely.
True.
He said we go to Virginia. So shout out to Candy.
Wow.
So
that's cool.
So of course, you know what I'm saying, that has been another rendition. We basically greatly appreciate Coach Shaw and Lou coming on, getting it in, having this, which they continue to talk and basically set the line, give it to a straight no chaser. Will there be another coaches poll before Nationals is put out there before the invitations?
I would
I
assume so.
don't think so. I mean, we'll
Okay.
talk about it, but I think what national invites are going out in 2 weeks.
Roughly, I think that's what he said.
Yeah, so there's no more games being played in that
Mhm.
time frame, unless I'm mistaken.
You got majority of like he said, majority of your conference tournaments, conference titles, and all that stuff should be in April, right before y'all go, right before the NMBT begins. I know ours is.
The Central is after. It's like,
Oh.
I mean, I can Google it real quick, but I think no, it's when's Nationals? The 22nd, 23rd of April, something like that.
The end of the month. I think the 20th. Is it? I think it's
Okay.
the end of.
So yeah, the Central Conference is 11th through the 14th, or something
Right.
like that in Oklahoma City. So national invites would have already gone out before we even play, and then I got more regular season games on the 23rd and 24th of March.
Okay.
Right.
But in case
I play a bunch of teams I play at least 2 teams on the top.
So in any case, I mean, I would think that the poll isn't based on the Nationals necessarily. It's just that we know that's where the poll comes out. So of course, if y'all continue with the poll until the end of the military basketball season, then of course graciously we'll take it and we'll get on and talk about it, because I'm very sure there will be conversation still to be made. Of course, we know that's going to be based upon the teams that are only playing, continue to play, which is predominantly what would be the military, the NBA teams, in which conversation, or just in general, because I'm very sure potentially if you have, it's still eye test even after that, to where it can determine if it's someone, let's say in the case of Langley, if enough has been done by the teams that are left to say that, okay, Langley isn't deserving of the number 1 seed at that point based on the continuous play. But I mean, it's y'all poll. I'm very sure if y'all seen it fit, we'll hear more about it, and there'll be more conversations to be had. I don't know if y'all see it or if y'all are engaging in it. I believe there is a summer league I know there's a summer league that the Military Basketball Association is having, in which they have in 2 iterations. One of the 2 iterations, I believe, was already filled up, and they were taking more teams for the second iteration. So I guess that's more ball to be played potentially for teams that are who aren't playing in the summer league. So you have that as well. What do you say, Langley? To talk about with that, Langley is the gold standard. I mean, what is it to be said? Until knocked off.
I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, Nationals last year, dominant again this year. I mean, if you can't beat them, I mean, if someone knocks them off their pedestal, we'll move them.
I mean, it almost happened, legitimately. It almost just happened against Eisenhower, which is why I just was on here talking about why I see them as a good team. It's the same thing with Liberty. That's just the team that we have, that we play the most as far as formidable opponents. We see them in every single championship. It's not like we're not giving people their roses, man. It just so happens to be that we ain't lost yet. When that happens, then we'll adjust accordingly.
I mean, we're not going to make everybody happy, right?
Oh yeah, I don't care about that at all.
No, I mean, honestly, I'm just trying to put. We're trying to let the military basketball community know how the rest of the coaches perceive the landscape of military basketball.
Hey man, it could be worse. Y'all could have to really look at what Mike put out, and that be everything that y'all got. Because if y'all was depending on those polls, y'all be super hot. Super. We took calls last night, right after these polls dropped. So like, what you gonna complain regardless? We knew that when we said that we was putting this together. So that is what it is. But pick your poison, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Pick your poison.
So again, coaches, greatly appreciate y'all coming. Go ahead, Shaw.
Oh, I just say, with us, I said, at least you get full transparency on where you're at. Where we see you. And not saying Mike doesn't do that, because he gets on here and he does this thing. I know he goes on Timo's live stream, and he did that as well. So, but there's 6 of us, 1 of him. There's just difference, right? We're just trying to put legitimacy from the coach's standpoint on where we see your programs at, and to add conversation piece for everybody to talk about.
And I greatly appreciate it. So that is our show for today. I greatly appreciate everyone that tapped in. Continue if you want to engage in the comments. Of course, it'll be seen and there'll be answers to those questions. If, like I said, if they decide to have one again, we'll have it again. For now, we know Nationals is what is coming up and what it's all about currently, and then you shift from there maybe into the military basketball associations as they get ready to play their conference championships, and then of course their championship to be held in Philadelphia and also to be televised CBS Sports. So saying it's up for military basketball at this point. I'm very sure many more plans to come into place. Gentlemen, before we get up out of here, any last words?
No, thank you for giving us a platform. Appreciate you.
Oh, no doubt. Always.
And good luck to everybody in their conference tournaments coming up end of this month, beginning of the next month. We look forward to seeing everybody out in Texas.
For sure. So until later on this week, y'all know what it is. Y'all know where you find me. Trey the Commish. You got Lou, Coach Shaw. We out of here. Peace.